take the first step. As simple as it might sound, you just have to take the first step. And once you take that first step, you'll have a different view that you couldn't have before taking that first one. It only takes that first step to get momentum and to keep going. I mean, I've climbed the highest mountain in every continent, and it doesn't matter how big the mountain is. Like, you climb the mountains the same way, and that's just putting one foot in front of the other. And so I think, like, dreams or goals, it doesn't matter the size. As long as you take one step and you don't stop, at some point you're gonna reach it.
Hello, intrepid listeners, and welcome to the Carpe Diem Live Your Dream podcast. I'm your host, Dale Simonson, and I have such a fantastic guest today. Her name is Andrea Dorantes, and she has such a great outlook on life, such an adventurous spirit, and such tenacity for achieving her super ambitious dreams. She's from Mexico, and not only is she the youngest Latin American female to climb the 7 summits, she has transitioned into an equally passionate and accomplished Arctic explorer who just 2 weeks ago returned from an expedition across the Greenland Icecap. I love her approach to accomplishing big goals and her plain and simple advice for others, not to mention her amazing stories. Enjoy the show. Andrea Dorantes, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here with you.
I'm even more excited because, if I'm correct, you just returned less than 2 weeks ago from about a 5 or 6 week expedition crossing the Greenland ice cap. Is that correct?
Yes, so I just came back 2 weeks ago from crossing Greenland. It was a 600-kilometer traverse from the west coast to the east coast, and it was 30 days on the ice. So it was a really good
30
adventure.
days. 30 days without seeing any color other than white and blue, probably shades of gray.
Yeah, I would say more white than blue because we had some whiteouts. But yeah, there's nothing out there. Like, we didn't even see animals or anything.
I, a monochromatic landscape. And you have a much bigger adventure resume than just this last expedition on Greenland. You've climbed the 7 summits, is that correct?
Yes. So 2 years ago, I finished climbing the 7 summits. That's the highest peak on every continent. So it was a really good adventure.
Okay, so there's a lot for us to cover, and I'm sure we won't be able to dive into each one of those. But first, before we talk about any of the adventures, just give our audience a little basic background about yourself.
So if you haven't heard my accent, I'm from Mexico. I was born and raised in León, Guanajuato. It's a big city in right in the middle of Mexico, 4 hours north of Mexico City. And I grew up in the city. I didn't have access to the outdoors. And growing up, my biggest passion was playing soccer. So I knew I wanted to get a scholarship to play soccer in the US. So my whole childhood, I dedicated my time to, improve my skills. And when I graduated from high school, I got an offer to play soccer at a university in Southern Illinois. I was there for 2 years, and at some point, something happened that I just stopped enjoying playing soccer. So it was kind of like a weird moment for me because, I dedicated my whole life to this sport, and then out of a sudden, I lost my passion for it. And growing up, I also, like, every winter break, I would go skiing in the US or Canada. So I thought, oh, maybe since I'm studying in the US, it's a good time to spend more time on the mountains just skiing. So for me, it was an easy choice to transfer to Boise State in Idaho. I just Google schools near ski resorts, and that's how I found Boise State. And honestly, it's been like transferring to Boise State has been like one of my best decisions in my life, I would say, because it opened up a world for me that I didn't even know it existed. So it was until I transferred to Boise State that I started working for the outdoor program, and I started doing like different activities such as rafting, mountain biking, skiing. Like, Idaho is such a cool playground, so that's where I fell in love with these activities, and from there on I just started, pursuing my dreams, I would say.
Andrea, you're a big city girl by your upbringing, and yet you have become like one of the most prolific adventurers at a really young age. Like this really happened fast for you, right? How many years ago did you move out to Idaho?
I moved to Idaho when I turned 21.
And that was how many years ago?
That was 7 years ago.
From that point forward, your life just really changed, and you ended up becoming the youngest Latina to do the seven summits, right? Yeah,
Yeah. So I'm the youngest person from Latin America to do the seven summits, and also the
from
one that
Latin
did it in
America.
the shortest time.
Yeah, and how long did that take you?
It took 1 year and 10 months.
That's it?
That's it.
Really, including like Denali, Everest, and like
All of them.
Kilimanjaro, and I mean, just any one of those could take a month or more, right? How did you start this? Like, did you set out saying, okay, I'm going to do the seven summits and I'm going to do them in a really compressed fashion, or did you just do one and then it grew from there?
So when I was in starting at Boise State, I didn't climb any big mountains. And it was
Right.
until COVID started. I was in Idaho at the time. I was volunteering as a ski instructor, and that time everything shut down. So I had to come back to Mexico. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do in Mexico? Like I thought I couldn't do many outdoor activities here, but I was so wrong. And at that time I realized that Mexico has like big mountains because at
Oh,
the time
yeah.
I had no idea. And I made some friends and they invited me to climb Pico de Orizaba. That's the highest peak here in Mexico. It's the third highest peak in North America. And
Okay.
I didn't know much about it, but I love adventures. So it sounded like a good adventure to go on. So I decided to join the little expedition. So one day I trained for a couple months, got ready, and that was the first mountain that I climbed. And climbing that mountain, like, it was just amazing. Like, I was just so happy. I felt something in my body that I've never felt before. I remember it was October, so there was this huge full moon like lighting the mountain, and you can see the stars because it was a clear sky, so everything was just like unbelievable. And I remember I reached the summit and I saw like one of the most wonderful sunrises I have ever seen. And at that moment, I asked myself, oh my God, if this is the view from the highest peak in Mexico, I cannot imagine what it's going to be like to be on the highest point on earth. So after climbing my first mountain, I was already thinking about Everest, but that's something you shouldn't do, like to climb Everest, you should have a lot of experience, but it was already in my mind. And for me, if I have something in my mind, it's really hard to get it out. So right after climbing Pico de Orizaba, I was like, okay, I need to climb more mountains because I was just like so excited about this new sport. And a couple months after that, I went to Ecuador to climb bigger mountains there. So I climbed Cotopaxi, Cayambe, and Chimborazo. And when I was in Ecuador, I realized that my body adapts really well to altitude because climbing mountains you can be really strong physically or mentally, but if your body doesn't react well to altitude, you're going to have a bad time. So when I was in Ecuador, I realized that my body was, didn't have any issues at high altitude, so I was really excited about that. And right after Ecuador, I was reading a book that is called Higher Love, Climbing the Seven Summits. So it's about the
Oh,
first person ever to climb and ski the seven summits. So I was reading
it
that.
sounds like, Andrea, it sounds like a really dangerous book to
Yeah,
put in
it
the
is.
hands of somebody like you.
Oh, it is dangerous. Really dangerous. I wouldn't recommend it if you want to go on adventures.
Because
So
it'll make you want to go, right?
exactly, that's what happened to me. So I'm a victim of that book. So I was reading it, and on one page it said, on April 15th, I decided to climb the seven summits. And I knew it was April because it was the end of the season. And I'm like, oh, what day is it? And it was April 15th. So I'm like,
Oh,
oh, this is a sign. So it was just an
that was
easy
an
trip.
omen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just said, okay, if I love traveling and I love climbing mountains, then let's climb the seven summits. But of course, at that time, like I had no idea what it would take, how long it would take, how much it would cost. Like, I was blank, but I just knew I
Yeah.
wanted to do it. And I think, well, what I learned is that you just need to know, like, have clarity on what you want to do, but it doesn't matter if you don't have like every step figured out. So that's how my project started.
Wow. I just love how fast this all evolved. And it sounded like there were just a couple few really key moments along the way. And so you said, I'm going to do the seven summits. What was your first thing you did then to make that happen?
So I came back home and I told my friends and family, okay, I'm going to climb the seven summits. And of course, at that moment, they thought I was kidding, but I
Yeah,
wasn't. So I was like, okay, how much money do I need to do this?
a
And then I
lot.
realized I'm like, whoa, I was not expecting that. But I didn't want to use money as an excuse not to go for my dreams.
Yeah.
So I started contacting so many companies to get sponsors. And at the beginning, it was really hard because I had no idea what they were looking for. I didn't even have social media. So I was like, nobody. But then I contacted a local company from my city. It's called Flexi. It's one of the biggest
Uh-huh.
shoe companies here in Mexico. And the CEO gave me a chance to present my project, and he fell in love with it. And Flexi sponsored me 100% of all the seven summits.
Wow. Oh, isn't that just a stroke of good luck, fortune, right?
Yes.
Although then again, it didn't just happen. You made that happen. You were out there pounding on doors. You can't just sit there and wait for the money to come, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I was lucky and it was easy, but no, it was a hard process, like you have to get up every day, go to so many appointments, send so many emails, make the calls, and like you get rejected so many times, or sometimes they don't even reply to you. So it's like a long process, but I always think like, every time they say no, I'm closer to a yes. So at this point, I just keep pushing until I get what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So then it's 2021 and suddenly you have sponsorship. What was the next thing you did?
So the first thing I did was, okay, now I have the money. What mountains am I going to climb first? Because every mountain has its own
A
season when you
season.
can, yeah, when you
Yeah.
can climb it. So I
Yeah.
figured I wanted to do it in less than 2 years. I thought it was good to set a deadline because if not, like time would just pass and I would not get it done. I would have to commit 100% to this, but it was doable. So the first mountain that I climbed was Kilimanjaro in Africa, and that was
Okay.
September
Yeah.
2021.
And you were such a rookie making this plan.
I think that was good for me, not knowing much, because that way I could just do it my own way. Because sometimes
Yeah.
I feel like if you ask too many people for opinion, you get lost. I didn't know anybody that had done it. So that gave me a lot of space for creativity and, yeah, just making it work for myself.
So you were really driven, and yet you had to be a little scared, a little apprehensive, like nervous about this goal. It's a pretty audacious goal, right?
To be honest, I wasn't too scared because I had no idea what it would take. Even I
You're
remember when
too
I,
too naive
yeah,
to be scared.
yeah, exactly. That's how I felt. I was just like, I'll go there and figure it out what to do.
Yeah,
So I think that's also an advantage because that way your mind is not playing tricks on you, it's not playing against you.
yeah. Well, I'm going to come back to some of these summits. I actually want to just ask you, how did you end up in Greenland?
Oh, that's a good story. So in December 2022, I was in
Uh-huh.
Antarctica because I went to climb Mount Vinson. It's such a big trip to go all the way to Antarctica. So I figure if I was going to be there to climb Mount Vinson, I might as well ski the last degree to the South Pole. So I did two expeditions. First, it was 111 kilometers skiing in a group to the South Pole, and that was my first like polar expedition. And once again, I loved it. Like it was like so crazy to be out there in the middle of nowhere, just pulling a sled with everything you need, like your tent, your food, fuel, whatever you need for 10 days. Like it was just so peaceful, and I really enjoyed it. And when I did that expedition, I found out that you can do so many different expeditions in Antarctica. And one of them is a solo unsupported expedition from Hercules Inlet to South Pole is 1,130 kilometers. Sorry, I keep using kilometers, but I don't know
No, that's
miles.
fine. Yeah, so
But
like 600 something miles. Yeah.
yeah, it takes about 55 to 60 days. So I was like, okay, I want to do it. But that's a big, big expedition that you have to put, have a lot of experience and put in the training. And I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to do this expedition, and it's been in my mind for a long time. And one of the requirements to attempt to do this traverse is to ski across Greenland.
And so this recent Greenland ice cap crossing that you just came back from is really just a step in a bigger goal of yours, which is that solo Antarctic expedition.
Yeah. So it was like a big step. And it was also really good for me to say, okay, I'm committed to this big traverse,
Yeah.
because on this one I'm actually scared. Climbing mountains I was too naive, but for this one I'm nervous. I mean, it's not just hard physically because you're pulling a sled that is between 100 and 110 kilos. That's really really heavy, but you're
Yeah.
by yourself for 2 months in the middle of nowhere in the coldest place on earth. So it's also a really tough expedition for the mental aspect.
That's bold, Andrea.
Well, sometimes I feel like if you want to do something, you should do it before that passion or before that
Yeah.
fire runs out, because it's really easy to move on from your dreams.
Yeah, you got to keep the momentum, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this. You said it was 6 weeks crossing the ice cap, right?
Yeah, so it was 6 weeks total, but I was on the ice for 30 days. So when I
30
say
days. Yeah.
6 weeks, it was like the week before doing prep and like the week
Yeah.
afterwards. But on the ice, it was 30 days.
Okay. And this was with a group, correct?
Yeah, so that was with a group and we had a guide.
Okay. And I guess kind of every day is the same as the day before. You break camp, load up the pokes, you're on skis, right?
Yeah, so it's funny because polar expeditions sound so boring because you're doing exactly the same thing every day. So you just focus on getting better each day. But it's funny because you would say, like, oh, I should have it figured out by now. But it's just nature throws you things that you don't see coming. So every day is a challenge. But in the big picture, every day you're doing the same.
Yeah, and that sort of simplicity is very uplifting. It just really drives me.
Yeah, I think for me, that's the biggest thing. Just being out there in the middle of nowhere and just realizing how simple life can be. Like you're carrying everything you need for a month on your sled. That's it.
Y- Yeah.
Sometimes on our daily lives, we create so many like unnecessary necessities. We think we need
Yeah.
more than what we actually need. So when you're out there, it's just a good reminder that life is simple, life is easy. The best thing for me on this kind of expeditions is the opportunity just to be present, because when you're out there skiing for 8 9 hours a day without having any distractors, because you're not on social media, you don't have service, you
Yeah.
don't even have trees or something to distract yourself with. It's just
Yeah.
white, and at some point your mind just stops. So that's pretty amazing.
What was your worst moment on that trip?
The hardest thing that we encountered was really big storms at the beginning. And at some point, we had to stay in the tents for 41 hours because there was a huge storm. with winds up to 140 kilometers per hour. So it
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
like 90-mile-an-hour winds. I'm surprised the tents stayed up.
yeah, me too. No, but for this one, we actually had to do like a lot of preparation. We had to dig a hole so that the tents would be a little bit lower, and then we
Uh-huh.
built like some really strong walls to protect a little bit better. We
Huh.
couldn't go outside, not even. Yeah, we just, yeah,
Yeah, you weren't going out to the toilet.
no, 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 no.
Yeah, do what you have to do.
Yeah, but it's not too bad because the those tents that we have like two openings. So in the front part of the tent, you use it for cooking, and when I say cooking, it's just melting snow.
Yeah.
And the back part is like where you can just go and use the toilet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. What was your best moment on that Greenland journey?
Right after that 41-hour storm, the wind died down around 7 p.m. So we were like, okay, we need to get going because we haven't moved in almost 2 days. So we started skiing at 7 at night and we ski all night until 5 a.m. But at midnight, we saw the sunset and it was just unbelievable. Like it was just amazing to see the sun disappear under the ice. So it was a pretty cool moment.
So here's a interesting question. Would you do that Greenland crossing again, or is that a once and done kind of adventure?
I would say I would do it again, no question. Just like that. Like if you
Yeah.
told me tomorrow, let's go to Greenland and let's cross it, I would say yes, let's do it. But if you ask me, you want to climb Everest again? No, thank you.
Ah, okay. So what's the difference?
For me, I didn't enjoy climbing Everest that much because nowadays it's too commercial, too many people there. And for me, when I go out in nature, like I want to feel like I'm in the wilderness, like I'm in a wild place. And I didn't get that feeling climbing Everest because base camp is like a mini city. There's a coffee shop. Some people have like ping pong tables. It's Yeah, it's ridiculous, like, and so many days you're just there waiting and doing nothing because you cannot waste energy going on hikes and stuff like that. And you have to be really patient waiting for the right day to go up. So I feel like it's something that I already did. I'm really happy that I did it, but it's not a place that I would dream of going there again.
I never really thought of it that way, but I totally get your point. I don't like crowds, and especially I don't like crowds when I'm out in nature seeking nature. Tell me then, of those seven summits, which was your favorite and why?
I would say Denali for sure
Oh, okay. And why?
because it feels wild. Like the whole experience is just really nice because you have to be independent. You have to do everything for yourself. For example, climbing Everest, there are Sherpas. Climbing Aconcagua, there are porters. Climbing Kilimanjaro, you have people helping you. Denali and Vincent are like the only ones that you have to do everything yourself. Just being out there in the middle of the mountains, like it was just incredible. And I also had a lot of fun because I took my skis. So on rest days, I would just find a nice wall and say like, okay, I want to ski this wall. So I would just do it, and I don't know. I felt like a little kid on going to Disneyland. I had such a good time, and we were really lucky with the weather because I've heard like horror stories about climbing Denali in bad weather. So we were really lucky.
So you changed your entire life trajectory just a couple of years ago with the seven summits, and you've become, I'm sure, a really different person because of it. I'm sure there was a lot of physical and mental efforts that went into making these things happen, these goals of yours. But I'm sure there's been some huge rewards you found along the way. Can you just describe some of those rewards and how you think you've changed from all these experiences?
I think the biggest reward you can get out of any of these expeditions is just this feeling of being alive and realizing like how lucky we are to be on this planet, because sometimes I feel like when we're on our daily life, we just take it for granted. But when you're out there and your life is at risk, because you don't know if that's going to be like your last moment, because nature can take over your life at any moment. So when you are living in that intensity, you realize you cannot take any moment for granted. So for me, that's my biggest reward. And I don't feel like, oh yeah, I climbed the mountain or I just crossed Greenland, because for me it's like, okay, what else can I do with my time on earth? Like I want to make sure that when I come to my last day, I can be happy and look back at my life and say, wow, I just did everything I wanted and I have no regrets. So I think that's the biggest reward about doing these expeditions.
Just really changed your perspective on life.
Yeah.
And I got to believe with you too, when you talk about your ability to just set your sights on a goal and work until you've achieved it, I got to believe that achieving all these goals like you have really builds your confidence that you can achieve the next one, whatever it is, however big it is.
Yeah, and I also think that's something you build up. You start with something small and then something bigger and bigger and bigger. And at some point, it doesn't matter how big the goal is. What matters is that there is nothing getting in your way, because you just believe in yourself so much that there is no room for doubt. So if you believe you can do it, you're just going to go out there and do it.
Well, I started this podcast because I have this hypothesis that there's a lot of people out there who dream of doing some big adventure dream of theirs, and yet they never quite get around to doing it. What is it that you think holds so many people back?
I would say what holds back most people is the risk of failure. We think we need to get the things right the first time, but actually you haven't failed until you stop trying. So for me it's like it doesn't matter how many times I have to do it. If I keep failing and failing and failing, if I just change my perspective and it's like I'm just learning and learning and learning, then at some point I'm going to reach whatever I set my mind to. But I also think that sometimes we get caught up in our daily lives and it's easier to stay in our comfort zone because we can control everything that is going around it. And when we take that big step or do something that we're really dreaming of, at some point you step into the unknown. And there are so many unknown factors. And I feel like sometimes that what holds back people, they're not willing to go beyond their own limits, because I have learned that it doesn't matter how big the goal is or how big the mountain is, like the only thing that is going to hold me back is what happens in my mind. So sometimes we're too afraid of dreaming big, and it's easier to have a comfortable life without risking anything. And sometimes I also think that we take life for granted and we just pretend that we're going to be living on the planet for unlimited time. But if we are honest, we start realizing that we don't know when it's going to be our last day. Then maybe at that point we'll start living like every day is the last. I think that's what holds people back.
Yeah, and you talk about limits, and I think most people are capable of far more than they believe they are. And so it's kind of a perceived limits rather than actual limits.
Yeah, it's perceived limits, because once you cross them, you realize they were never there.
Yeah. What's an example for you? I'm sure there were moments of self-doubt. Is there an example where you felt like you were not going to be able to do something and you crossed that limit and then realized it was not there?
The first time I was in Norway, right after Antarctica, I met this guy and he was like, okay, come to Norway. So I was there. I didn't know much about polar expeditions. I didn't even know how to use a compass or a GPS, anything. And he taught me the night before.
You are a rookie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't know much, but I'm not afraid of learning. It's like, okay, I'll figure it out. I just need to get out there and, you
I'm
know,
going to go cross Antarctica without a compass.
no, no, no. Now I know. Like I've
Yeah.
I've done the training, so now I feel more confident. But when he dropped me off, so I packed my sled. we drove and he dropped me off in the middle of nowhere and he's like, okay, I'll pick you up in 7 days. Have fun. And I had my GPS, the compass, my map. And I remember the first 4 hours were so frustrating because I would take one step and, my whole ski would sink up to my knees and my hips.
Oh,
And it was like, I was so frustrated. Like, I was like, I cannot do this. Like, I was just thinking, like, I can't believe he made me come all the way from Mexico to Norway. And I'll have to call him and be like, I can't do this.
come back, come
Yeah.
come pick me up.
It was seriously maybe the most frustrating hours of my life. Like it was ridiculous. Like every step I would take, I would sink down and then my sled would get stuck in the bushes. It was horrible, but I had to take some time. I was like, okay, what's the plan? Because I was trying to go over a hill, but I realized too soon that it's almost impossible to drag a sled up a hill, like even if it looks tiny. So I decided to go around, and like as the days went by, my confidence started building. But you have to be willing to feel frustrated at the beginning, be willing to feel stupid, or so many things are going to go wrong, but you just have to keep pushing, keep moving, and at some point things are going to start clicking.
Yeah, and that's what builds the confidence. That's how you grow, right?
Yeah. So I think every experience helps me grow. And for me, what's exciting and why I do so many different types of expeditions and adventures is because I feel like, for example, the Andrea that climbed Everest is not the Andrea that crossed Greenland. Like for each expedition, I have to learn something about myself. And that's what it's really exciting for me. Just like figuring out like, oh, I can also be this person. Oh, I didn't know I had these skills. And you just grow as a person.
Do you have any advice for people that have some dream to get out there and do some cool adventure?
I would say take the first step. As simple as it might sound, you just have to take the first step. And once you take that first step, you'll have a different view that you couldn't have before taking that first one. It only takes that first step to get momentum and to keep going. I mean, I've climbed the highest mountain in every continent, and it doesn't matter how big the mountain is. Like you climb the mountains the same way, and that's just putting one foot in front of the other. And so I think like dreams or goals, it doesn't matter the size, as long as you take one step and you don't stop. At some point, you're gonna reach it.
Well said. Well said. This has been fascinating. We're kind of out of time, but I have to ask the last question that I ask all my guests. What's your next big dream adventure? And you've already talked about your solo Antarctic South Pole traverse. So I'm not going to let you include that one. Instead, you've transitioned from just like a Rocky Mountain fan to a serious mountaineer with the seven summits to now a expanding Arctic explorer. What's the next big path you want to pursue?
That's a hard question to answer because right now I'm really focusing on my expedition to Antarctica. And I know it's too soon to start dreaming about something too big,
Okay.
but I want to do something in the ocean. Like
Ah,
maybe row across an ocean or row in
ah,
the Antarctic Peninsula. That would be a dream. Like I don't have a clarity on what it's going to be exactly, but I know after polar expeditions is going to be something in the oceans.
okay. Oh, well, I'm going to want to circle back with you after the South Pole. When is that planned for?
So I'm going in November. So the plan is to be there from November 18th till January 16th.
Okay. Wow, that's okay. 2 months.
2 months, yeah.
Wow. And that's coming up really fast.
Yeah, it's faster than I expected.
Well, I wish you the best. I'm going to want to hear more about it after the fact. I'd like to keep in touch.
Yeah, let's keep in touch and let's go on adventures together.
Twist my arm. But hey, thanks for the time today, Andrea. Fascinating. I love the conversation.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the Carpe Diem Live Your Dream podcast. If you like the show, there's nothing more valuable to me than you following it and sharing it with others. I drop a new episode every Friday, so tune in again for another great adventure story. And check out the accompanying website, www.gocarpediemnow.com, and then go seize the day and live your dream.